Senate Republicans released Proposal 2.0 today to repeal and replace Obamacare. The plan would include $43 billion more in funding for opioid treatments. It would give insurers which offer coverage to high-risk customers some more money, and it would let insurers offer bare-bone plans that might appeal to healthier individuals with more expensive plans to those with pre-existing conditions. It would still repeal individual and employer mandates. It would still cut Medicaid by hundreds of billions of dollars, but it does keep some of the other Obamacare taxes on high-income Americans, which the last version of the bill would have repealed.
As before, it aims to stabilize and reform the collapsing insurance markets that have left too many with no options, and it aims to make insurance more affordable and more flexible, so it's something Americans actually want to buy.
And as for the Democrats, they're not having any of it.
From what we're seeing, the new Republican Trump care bill is every bit as mean as the old one.
If these Republicans took their heads out of the sand, they would hear the near unanimous calls from the experts. They would hear the alarm bells Americans across the country are ringing against this cruel and heartless and immoral legislation.
At least 3 Republican senators reportedly remain opposed to the bill, and there are a whole lot of groups who are watching this unfold closely, those with pre-existing conditions, those who need chronic care, many of whom are veterans. Joining me now to talk about those concerns is David Riley. David's the national commander of the group Disabled American Veterans. He's the first Coast Guard veteran and quadruple amputee to lead the organization. David, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for being here. You know, most people, and I have to include myself, think veterans are covered 100% by the Veterans Health Administration, but I learned today fewer than half are. So this bill, these bills that have made their way through Congress, they have a dramatic impact on your members, no?
They could. They have the possibility of, yes.
So what do you think of this latest incarnation, the thing that came out this afternoon?
We've been monitoring this for a time now, and there's some things that they're talking about would cost more money, and the VA just simply doesn't have that in their current budget. So we'll continue to monitor them, and we'll have to get back to you on some of the things.
But my understanding is, this also surprised me. I was talking to you before we went on the air. So many Americans think Medicaid is just for poor people. In fact, it's our parents and others. A tenth, I read, close to 2 million veterans depend on Medicaid for their health coverage. Is that not correct?
Yeah, you know, it's part of some of their benefits. But before we really get into the interview, I would like to do something here.
What are you doing?
I have been a woodworker all my life.
I've read that.
And so, you know, about 30 years ago, I got this wood in a barn that was put up about 70 years ago by a farmer. Yeah. And, you know, it was worm-ridden and kind of, most people would have discarded it. But I took the wood, put it away, knowing that I would use it someday. Yeah. So with a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, I'm able to turn this old wood into something new with purpose and beautiful. And,
it is beautiful.
So I would like to present to you this box.
Me?
This is now, if you look on the bottom of it, it says Hook Made by Dave Riley. So
oh my God.
This is made in my...
Dave, thank you. That is really so generous.
Thank you for what you do for veterans.
That is so kind. Thank you so much. Speaking of doing for veterans, I think you can make a case Donald Trump might not be president were not for the support of veterans. The poll shows 60-34. Is he in the first 6 months honoring the commitment he made to people like your members?
Well, we were with him when he signed the Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act, and I think that was a right step in the right direction.
Making it easier for the VA to fire bad apples and that sort of thing.
Yes.
How about funding issues, though? Are those, where's he on those?
Well, we're still working on that. You know, we've been to Congress a bunch of times, and one of the things that we've been working on is this caregiver bill. Yeah. You know, right now it's only post 9/11 veterans. So we want to correct that inequity and make it for all veterans of all years.
Can we talk about stigma issues? In this society as a whole, veteran or not, there still is a stigma, as much as many people try to run mental health kinds of concerns. But I think it's fair to say that what are called often invisible wounds of war in many ways are even more stigmatized, or the people who suffer from them feel more stigmatized. Are we making progress on that front, or are service members still feeling they can't talk about these kinds of
Well,
things?
the Vietnam vets, when they came back, they were not treated correctly. You know, my father, when he came back to the airport in San Francisco, had fruit thrown at him, you know, and told him to take his uniform off. So, you know, that led, and the experiences they had over in Vietnam led to some, what we'd call PTS now, post-traumatic stress. And DAV has been there from the start on that. In 1976, we funded a study by Dr. John Wilson that actually created that as a disability, as an illness. And so we started 7 centers for veterans to meet and in a clinical environment and talk about these issues with one another. And from that, we had 7 the next year, and by 1978, we had 70 centers around the country. So the VA actually took that program over, changed it, and took over our centers from that.
And do your members feel they're more able to speak openly about that invisible wound than they maybe were 10 years ago? They do. It's, you know, I've spoken a lot with Seth Moulton, for example, is a veteran who's a member of Congress, as you well know, did 4 tours of duty, about how difficult it is to re-engage in civilian life for veterans. He's done this wonderful things with Andrew Bacevich and Sebastian Younger about bringing veterans and non-veterans together to share experiences. But I would assume that re-engagement in civilian life for a disabled veteran is even tougher. Are we making strides on that front as well?
Yeah, I think that, you know, with me personally, you know, I was disabled. I was a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard. I came back, got a bacteria, it turned me septic, I lost my limbs in service. So you know, DAV was there. They came to me at my bedside, had me rated within 30 days, and then stepped back, and I went through college. I had 8 years of college. I got my master's in computer science, had my own computer company. But it took a while, once I slowed down from school, for the depression to come in. It hit me pretty hard in about 2010. Our DAV was there, saw that, and sent me to the Winter Sports Clinic in Aspen, Colorado. It's a rehabilitation event that adaptive sports and stuff. And my missing ingredient was, you know, I had been living a high energy life. So when they put me in the sit-down ski and sent me down from the top of the mountain, it gave me adrenaline back, and that was the missing ingredient for me. So, you know, from there, I saw what the DAV was doing and how they'd been in my life, and decided to devote it towards becoming a national commander, which I finally did this
And I should
year.
say in closing here, what disabled veterans have done for some of the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing who were lucky enough to go to places like Walter Reed is just amazing. David, it's a pleasure to meet you. They're lucky to have you, and I am really lucky to have this. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck with your work, Dave. I appreciate it.